Finally, the moment you've all been waiting for. Time to take a look. Sorry. Time to take a look at the one you've all been asking for. The 18 volt versus the 40 volt in the impact drivers. This is the TD171D, also known as the DTD171, also known as the XTD16. This is the TD001G. That may end up with a different number when they are released in North America, but at the moment that's what it is. Anyone who's a regular to the channel will know I do kinda like impact drivers. I've got a few of them. Ever since I started talking about the 40 volt stuff, this is the tool people wanted to see. This is the matchup people wanted to see. As you can see, size wise, there's not a huge jump. 40 volt is slightly bigger, slightly wider, just a little bit longer. The 18 volt is rated at 180 newton meters. The 40 volt is rated at 220 newton meters. There is lots of different ratings of torque, of course, though. There is peak torque, there's nut busting torque. So that's why I went and bought a torque wrench so we can test some of these things a little bit more accurately. It's only a cheap one, I know, but wasn't going to buy a super duper one just to test tools with. If somebody wants to donate a high-end version, then all good, I might take that up. Until such time though, let's take a look at, oh, there's just so many features. There's just so many. There's so many settings on this. It's like, where do I start? Those familiar with the 18 volt will know there's 8 different settings down here, which is quite a lot to get your head around. Well, if you thought that was a lot, well, you got a few more on this one. This one has 10. And to be honest, they're not the easiest things to find, especially when they're written in Japanese on this model. These both are Japanese models. If you're sitting there thinking, purple Makita, I've never seen a purple Makita, they must be fake. In Japan, they make different coloured impact drivers for Makita. They do limited edition ones, things like that. Each year they put out a different version of this one, a couple of different colours, limited edition ones. On launch, they put out 4 different colours. This is one of them on launch. This was released in teal, black, red, and purple. But there is also limited edition ones. I have seen a yellow one. Why you'd want a Makita that looks like a DeWalt's beyond me though. Let's put the 18 aside for a moment and just look at some of the numbers on the new one. We have, no, let's not do it like that. Let's actually compare the numbers, don't we? We want to see the difference between the two of these. So the numbers as written on the tools. Okay, the 4 speed settings on the 18 are 1100, 2100, 3200 and 3600. On the 40 volt it is 1100, 2100, 3200 and 3700. For impacts on the 18 it is 1100, 2600, 3600 and 3800. On the 40 it is 1100, 2600, 3600, all same so far, and 4400 on the highest setting. So when it comes to setting number 4, that's the only setting that's any different. It's a little bit faster and it's got a lot more wackies. They both have lights, of course. Pretty similar. In fact, probably exactly the same. The 6 amp hour battery, this is weighing in at just under 1.6 kgs. With a 4 amp hour battery, this is weighing in at just under 2 kgs, nearly 400 grams heavier. This is with the biggest battery though. If you use the 2.5 amp hour, it's 300 less than that. So that would bring it close to this, just under 100 more than the other one. So that's substantially heavier. Let's just weigh the actual tool. 920 grams and 974 grams. They both have glowing bumper rings on the front. I would show it on video, but it doesn't show up all that well. They're both one-handed 6.35mm or 1/4 inch chucks. Makita reckon that this new 40 volt one is more stable than this one. Doesn't wobble around so much. I haven't found that at all. If anything, I would have said this one was slightly better. You can see this one has a bit more meat around it. It's much more steel than in this one. And just like this one is also a bit tight. Now, as well as having 4 standard settings, it also has 6 assist modes, 2 T modes, 1 wood mode, and 3 bolt modes. We will try and test them all out. We'll use this for the bolts, and we'll do other various wood tests and stuff. I don't know what I'm going to test. There's just too many things to test. I've had lots of different requests for things that people want to see between these two tools. and there's just so much to test. I don't know how long this video is going to take me to make, and I don't know how long it's going to end up being. It could be a big one, guys, so make sure you've got a beer or two ready, because let's get into it. Right, before we start this test, I need you guys to give me a bit of a hand. There's a lot of debate about 5 and 6 amp hour batteries. Some people prefer the 5, some prefer the 6. If I happen to be slurring my words, it's because the missus has gone out for the evening and she won't be back for a couple of days. So, you know, the drinks have been flowing and all that. And yeah, hopefully you can still understand what I'm saying. But just yell at the screen now, if you will. Do you want the 5 or the 6? Ready? Go. Up, 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 up. Okay, so we'll go with the 6 then. Now I reckon these impacts are going to be pretty similar on settings 1 to 3, being that they're the same speed and the same impact rating, but the 4th setting there's a big jump in the 40 volt. So we'll start straight on level 4 with my standard testing medium, the 14 gauge 100mm button screw, and we'll start there and then we'll work up and down. But let's just see what it'll do in its highest speed with one of those screws. 1840. Bet that's Rob on that bloody text. 3, 2, 1. What the f? So that was surprising. I'm guessing they're going to be pretty similar in the lower range, but when we get up to the bigger screws, this one's going to have the power, the 40 volt. But I may be wrong. It might be a bit of a jip. 125mm. 1. Well, the 40 only just got that, and only right at the end. 150s now. These ones aren't stainless. 1. A little bit better. Now I'll try 200s. These are going to go right through my test stack here and into the top of my bench. We'll probably see another slight increase on the 40 volt with these. 1. .40 volt had the edge, but I tell you what, it's not by much. Right, with these modern impact drivers, there is a lot more to it than just who can smash in a screw the fastest. They have a lot more settings, so let's have a look at some of those. Now, when it comes to the different modes on these things, there's a lot, and it's slightly confusing, especially when you've got the Japanese model. So we have the 4 standard settings. When you want to flick into the next round, you push this blue button on the side here, which brings on the blue light. Then you can cycle 2 rounds through these lights again. Number 1 is wood mode. Picture of a screw, well, not on this one, but on the English version. You then have 2 T modes and 3 bolt modes. We'll go through each of these just driving screws first, just to show you what they will actually do, not the actual function of it, but you know, showing you that it will stop or speed up, that sort of thing. So we're in wood mode, or what I call jet assist mode on my 18 volt. Let's go. So you'll see there it picked up speed as it went along. Once it feels the resistance, it ramps up the torque and just drives that screw on home. Let's put her on the next one along, the first T mode. 3, 2, 1. And as you can see, it stops quite easily. That's because it thinks you're driving through thin gauge metal. It doesn't want to strip out your screws, so it stops. Now on the T2 setting, it's for thicker metal, but we are of course doing it in wood just to show you it's stopping. 3, 2, 1. As you can see, it's not getting quite enough resistance here. If that was metal, it would have been much stiffer and it would have stopped. Next up, we go into the second layer of modes. So we have this number 4 light lit up to show we're in the second level. The blue light is for all the assist buttons, and we're in the first one of that series of those 2 lights. Somewhat confusing, but don't worry, I'll show you a little trick with it in a minute. So these next 3 modes are what are known as bolt modes. Basically, you're putting in machine screws or you're doing lug nuts, putting nuts on bolts, that sort of thing. When going forward, once it feels the torque and the impact, it will stop. And when you are releasing a screw bolt, it'll start full on in level 4, and as soon as it feels the resistance drop, it will cut out. So there's 3 different settings for that. We will once again drive screws with it just to see what they do. So the first bolt setting, very similar to that T mode, and the second bolt setting, see, it takes just a little bit more resistance to make it stop. And finally, the third bolt setting, carries on a bit longer, just to get that bolt a little bit tighter, that nut a little bit tighter. Back in the first bolt setting, see that it was quite a slow, controlled removal of the screw, and then as soon as the resistance dropped when it was nearly at the end of the screw, it just stopped. So you can use these for more than just bolts if you wished. If you're doing small screws and you didn't want to keep dropping them, you just wanted them to quickly release, these sort of settings, quite handy. The second one, stop there once the screw was pretty much completely out. And then when pulling out in the third setting, just slowed right down by itself there so you don't lose your nut across the room. So those are quite handy. You don't get that with most impact drivers. You might get one of those settings, but you won't get 6 of them. So that is something that the 40 volt has when you're thinking about just the sheer power of an impact driver. It's not just about power, there is all those other features, and depending on what you do for a living and what you use your impact driver for, some of those could be very handy. It is, of course, a variable speed trigger as well. Let's put it on, back on 4. You notice I pushed up there to get it back on 4? Yeah. So with the trigger on this, variable speed, of course, so a lot of guys will just have this on the full 4 all the time, and if you just want to go a bit slower, you'll just half cock the trigger sort of thing. You can just slowly ramp it up. It's a real nice trigger. It's very easy, it's very tactile, and it's smooth, and you don't have to put much pressure on it. Very easy. Very light, easy trigger to control, unlike some impacts where it actually like hurts your finger. You got to strain almost to hold your finger on it, whereas this, beautiful, feels real nice. It's nicer than the 18 volt. Chuck looks a bit wobbly. Doesn't affect the performance in any way though. We'll now try them both in the wood mode, or what I call jet assist mode. They both sound quite slow. Watch what happens. We'll drive 125mm screws. Once. Tell you what, this 18 volt impact driver is a good one. The 40 volt, oh, I don't know, she seems to be struggling, doesn't she? Back out. Wow. It's a good little impact driver, this 18 volt. Let's go drill some holes, and then we'll come back and we'll test this thing getting some bolts undone. Or some nuts. Or something like that. I'll test out that torque wrench. So that's 4 inches, guys. 100mm. It's a 4x3 treated post with a Corella in the background. Shut up. T1 mode, 2mm steel. That's quite good. That's a lot better than the 18 volt, if I do recall. We'll try one with the 18 volt. T2 mode. So that one's stripped out. That was a little bit too much, but it's only 2mm steel. Maybe if we'd been doing it in 4mm, might have stopped. But that one worked perfectly. And it's stripped out, won't come out. Just a spinning. By comparison, the T mode's on the 18 volt. Pretty similar on T1, T2. Oh, perhaps a bit better than the 40 volt. Hasn't stripped out. I have found that bolt mode 1 is the perfect accompaniment for driving 32mm jib screws into pine. Stops perfect every time. T1 32mm jib screw into pine. Pretty much the same as the bolt one. Slightly more proud, but that might have just been a fluke. Yeah, slightly more proud. Probably be a bit better going into jib, for instance, as is a jib screws want. These aren't what these settings are necessarily used for. I'm just showing you some of the applications you can use, because people have been asking me about driving small screws with these powerful impact drivers rather than just smashing in big buggers. On just the first standard setting, a lot of control there. That'd be fine in setting 1 for putting in jib screws. If you're worrying about it damaging plasterboard, plenty of control on that first setting. Now the tool has this quick select mode button on the front here. When you have it on the standard settings, it will cycle through numbers 1 to 4 on your speeds, and you don't have to get your finger and go all the way down to the bottom here. It's right by your trigger finger, so you can just go bang, bang, bang. You can also register one of the other 6 assist modes to this button. To activate it or register it, you need to select the mode you want. We will go to T2. No, that's T1. Let's go T2. So we've got the blue light lit up, number 3 lit up. We then hold down the quick select button and the button that you use for selecting 1 through 4 and turning the light on and off. So you hold those down, so you get the flashing there. That flashing says it's registered. Now I can cycle between the favorite settings I've got here, which is the standard 3 settings. And then if I push the quick select, it will then go to T2 mode. Back to number 3, back to T2. So if you're doing the same functions all day, every day, you can program that so it's nice and quick to change between. You don't have to cycle through everything. It's right at your fingertip. I think the 18 volt does something like that too, but it's all in Japanese and I've never actually worked it out. I've never really tried. I tend to use impact drivers mostly in the highest setting, 4, and just go for it. Use the variable speed trigger to control if you want to go slower. So yeah, I mostly use the 1 through 4. On the 18 volt, I mostly used, like I say, the 1 through 4. I did use the jet assist mode quite a bit. I hardly ever used the bolt modes. Bolt mode 1. Bolt mode 2. There we go. See how that stopped? Put it back on. Stopped as well. Back off. Stops. Back off. It only needs mode 2 to get these off. That's good. And to put back on. So with things like lug nuts, the extra torque on the 40 volt really comes into play. My 18 volt, You may have seen it in the reviews I've done on this and putting it up against some other impact drivers. This can take the lug nuts off my van after I've put them on by hand, but it does have quite a bit of trouble, and it misses, say, it'll only do 3 or 4 out of 5, and it's really got to bang and bang and bang to get them off, whereas this took them off easily. I've just gone through and tried a whole lot of them, and this one can take them all off on number 2 setting. This one, going flat out, sometimes it misses. This one still has the 3-bolt setting above that, of course. Three, two, one. Damn, didn't even do it. Just about get my finger under there. But take a look at this. Smash those boards to bits. So, as you can see, 40 volt did somewhat better than the 18. One of these screws goes 14 boards deep. Is there a difference between the one made in China and the one made in Japan? I can't find any differences, so I'm not going to show you a whole lot of footage of me driving screws when they're all identical. So they sound the same as well. Everything seems identical, but just to, you know, I know it's going to bug some of you and it's going to bug me. I'm going to pull this one apart just to make sure it looks the same on the inside as the other one. See if it's got that protection with the fuse, that sort of thing. I'm pretty sure these tools are going to be identical though. The Japanese one has IP56 on it and the Chinese one does not. Hopefully that doesn't mean it's not though. Now I've had this one apart before, if you do recall, in the video where we compared the insides with the 18 volt. Let's pop her open again. So there she is. Lots of wires and shit going on in there. Is this one the same? Does it have fuse protection? Is it the same brand switch? Is it the same everything? Let's have a look. I've got to be careful with this one because I want to sell it. And there we go. Looks absolutely identical at first glance. I can see the fuse, the switch has the same numbering on it. Everything looks identical apart from a couple of QA marks like this blue one here and this red one on the other tool. All the wires are the same colors. I should take the English one out of the new model and stick it in my purple ones are pictures. These ones are done in words. Why didn't they put the pictures on there? And then they wouldn't have to make any different ones for different countries. The Japanese one could just look like that. Japanese are still going to know what those symbols mean, surely. Very tempting to swap it over though. Both of them come with a 30 amp car fuse, which is an important thing to remember. If something goes wrong with one of these, open it up, check that first. The mold date on this one is also a couple of months earlier, October 2019, whereas this one is December 2019, and they're of course made up of PA6 nylon with 30% glass. The dates on these parts are different also, and this one has the date of manufacture on the base of the driver near the battery terminal, whereas the Japanese one does not. Out of interest, this was produced in April 2020, whereas this one I know must have been made about October 2019. Right, I better put it back together and try and sell it. Boy, that was quick. I have managed to get rid of this one already, and I did a bit of a deal with the devil. More on that later in the vid. Well, none of my improvised torque testing rigs have been much success. This is much better though on these higher torque things, obviously, than the 18, being that it's got 40 Newton meters more torque. But haven't had all that much luck with the torque wrench and getting an accurate reading between impact drivers. And I've just been stripping threads and snapping tools and snapping bolts, and so I've got to get this video out because you're all attacking me in all the comment sections of all the other videos, so we're going to have to leave this one. It's not something that's all that imperative to an impact driver anyway. Most people would be doing these sort of things with an impact wrench, which we'll look at on another video. Anywho, so I better wrap this thing up. I better tidy up before I wrap up. Now, to all of you who have already left comments down below, you can go down and take them out now, saying that you want to see this up against the Milwaukee, because the Milwaukee is the best impact around. Well, never fear. I have the Milwaukee to test against the 40 volt. This is Milwaukee's top of the line generation 3. No, sorry, Milwaukee is a bit more wank than Makita. The Gen 3 fuel, they come up with all these wanky words because they give it such a shit model number that no one's ever going to remember it. I don't know what the model number is, and I don't care, but it's a generation 3 fuel, 18 volt though, not 36 or 40. But it's their top of the line impact driver, although I've just seen that they're releasing a generation 4. Anyway, I've got the best current one as of today, and we're going to put that up against this in the next video. Congratulations for making it this far through the video. Did you know 60% of people will not make it this far? So in summary, what do I make of this new 40 volt max XGT Makita impact driver? I've had it for bang on a month today. I have been using it instead of the 18 volt. I'm guessing a lot of you from the video are thinking, hey, why would I bother upgrading from my 171 to the new 40 volt? And you know what? I'd have to agree with you. This is good if you need more torque. If you're doing really heavy things all the time, then this will get it done a little bit quicker, and maybe a few times this will miss and not be able to do it, whereas this one will pull through and get the job done for you. But if you already have the 171, if you're already on the 18 volt, you've got the 171 and you're only going to upgrade for the impact driver, don't bother. The impact driver is a good impact driver by itself. If you don't have the 171, if you're upgrading from a lower tool to this, then you're going to think this is shit hot. But if you're used to the 171, there's not a great increase in power and everything, especially for the extra weight you've got to lug around. This battery is a lot heavier than this battery. I mean, these are 600 grams, this is a kg. I understand that they had to have an impact driver ready for launch for the 40 volt max line, but it hasn't been the nice improvement that, say, the combi drill, hammer drill, and the angle grinder were. They were massive jumps from the 18 to the 36, whereas this one, not so much. I will still be keeping it though, so don't ask if you can buy it or anything, but on a day-to-day basis I think I will stick with the 171. But like I say, it's still a really good impact driver, And if you want to start off with just 40 volt tools, maybe you haven't even tried the 18 volt, you are getting into things now and you want to start with the best you can get, well then you're going to get the 40 volt kit with all the tools, and you're going to get that, and it's a great little impact driver. But don't bother upgrading if you've got that. Thanks for watching, guys. I've also done reviews on a heap of other 40 volt stuff, at the 5-inch angle grinder, the reciprocating saw, the circular saw, the rotary hammer drill, and the standard hammer drill or combi drill. So you'll find links to all of those down in the description below, and you may find some up in the corner up here. Where's the corner? Up there. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you on the next one, which may look a little something like this. 3, 2, 1.